Hi folks, and welcome to Aches and Games, a relaxed monthly check-in between two slightly older British friends, talking life, gaming, and basically whatever other nonsense comes to mind. We've been around so long, we both need a ground-up remake, and you'll currently find us on Xbox, PlayStation 5, plus a bit of PC and Nintendo Switch action. Speaking of remakes, this is our second crack at this episode, as we actually did all of this a few days ago, but I managed to balls up the recording. But we love you so much that we're doing it all over again a few days later, so please return the favour by spreading the word, liking and subscribing to the podcast, and consider giving us a 5-star review because that pushes us up the searches. We'd also appreciate a follow and some interaction on any of our socials. That's X, Threads, and most social platforms at Aches and Games. That's ACHESANDGAMES. On our Facebook page in particular, which has a lot of good interaction. Thank you very much so far, but keep it going. And by emailing us at achesandgamespod@gmail.com. I'm Giles Nicholson. I'm Giles Went West on most things, socials, Xbox and PlayStation 5. And joining me as always is my good friend James Hapes. How are you doing, James? Ready to do it all again?
Yes, very well, Giles. I was going to say it's been too long, but it really hasn't. It's not been long enough by a long stretch. Yes, you can find me on social media at You Have to Laugh with the number 2. That's my parenting blog from many years ago. But also I run the Facebook page for Aches and Games, where there's lots of great content, as Giles says. So please do pop across and have a look and enjoy the memes and get involved in the conversation and look at the reels and all that jazz. I'm on PlayStation Network with Jamesy Boy 1978, and I'm also now back on Xbox because my son Joshua forced me to get an account to play Fortnite with him. So on there, I'm Jamesy Boy 78. I think I mentioned before to Giles that it was meant to be Jamesy Boy 1978 to match my PlayStation profile, but it was 2 characters too long for an Xbox profile. So I went for Jamesy Boy 78, and then annoyingly it added a hashtag 2304 afterwards. So it's a much longer username than it is allowed. But it's not what I wanted. But James Boy 78, look out for me on that. I can also find me on street corners, shouting at pigeons and foretelling the end of the earth. But fortunately, that's fairly irregular. So that's me.
Excellent. Thank you, James. You've immediately put me at ease that this episode is going to be just as off the cuff and freestyle as we were hoping, despite the fact that I think we're both a bit worried that we're just going to kind of try and rehash whatever we did a few days ago. My other thing that I'm kind of worried about is that actually we might realise that what we need is a rehearsal every month, and that potentially this turns out to be our best episode ever, and we kind of think we don't have time for that. So anyway, let's see how we go. And listeners, I know this is the first time you're hearing us, so we will try and bring the energy for you and talk through what we've been up to. Speaking of which, James, how's your month been? As if I didn't know.
Yeah, great link, Giles. I'm sure we talked about it in the past at some stage, but obviously the month of April was quite busy. We had the Easter holidays, so we went to Hailing Island for a couple of nights, which was nice. I haven't been there for years. It used to be known as Reading-on-Sea because everyone from Reading used to go there as our nearest beach, supposedly, according to my parents. So we popped along there. I've not been for years, like I said. No, it was really good. Went with Joshua, stayed in a hotel just on the Portsmouth side, so just before you go over the bridge. And we did lots of different things down there. Went to the beach, had some fun, did some walks. Went to a farm. The farm was really good, lots of animals, lots of good times. But annoyingly, it was a really muddy day and it started to rain halfway through it. So as we were walking around, I was walking around one particularly treacherous piece of farm ground. And I thought I was being clever by standing right close to the edge, avoiding the puddle. And then I kind of stepped 1 foot around the corner, slipped, and then Wile E. Coyote style, my feet went like that until I ploughed arse first into the mud. So there we go, that kind of ruined my day. But it was fun for Joshua, he loved it. Probably one of his highlights of the time he spent with me over the last 10 years. So yeah, something for him to remember and something for me to mention at his wedding probably when he's older. So that was that. That was Hailing Island. But we also, and I know you've done that before because we've talked about it in the past, went to the Hawke Conservatory Trust, which is in Andover, and that has lots of wild birds and lots of demonstrations. And there's a nice owl demonstration where you sit on a bench and owls fly at your head and you try to dodge them and they do nice fun stuff. And there's lots of peregrine falcons and there's lots of eagles and other wild birds there, and a donkey. There's 2 random donkeys at this wild bird park, which Josh really loved as well. So yeah, had a great time there. Recommend it to anyone who's in the vicinity of Andover. It's a really good day out. We also did the Reading Half. I know you and Craig used to run together years ago. I know you gave up a little bit, but Craig continued doing so, and he was in the Reading Half again a couple of weeks ago. That's a half marathon around Reading every year. It starts at finishes at the football stadium, which is quite a fun way to finish. but we always look out for him halfway round to give him a bit of a cheer and a high five to boost him up. And he also said that the kilometre after we met him was his fastest for the second half of the race. So he put that down to us cheering him on. So awesome job there, and well done to Craig for completing the half marathon. As always, tiny little bit, Reading Football Club finished the season. League One season finished. We didn't get relegated. We finished on a bit of a high, and owners are meant to be buying us in the next couple of weeks, so that should be finished soon. So that's good news. And last but very much not least, because it's going to dominate the next 5 months of our life, our building work finally started. I'll put some pictures up at some stage on the Facebook page just for a laugh. But yeah, we had some bricks put in today, so we've got some breeze blocks in the back garden now. They've completely destroyed both front and back gardens, so it's a nightmare. But it looks like it's getting somewhere now. We've got some bricks, so they've dug lots of things up, and now they're putting stuff back together. So hopefully in 5 months' time it'll look awesome. And that's a bit of a granny flat for my mum who moved in a year ago. So yeah, should be really good in the future. I think your building work's nearly done, G, isn't it? You're all done and dusted, or a little bit to do?
Yes, well, if anyone, if this is clipped, you can see that I'm in a new room, not quite sort of decorated yet in terms of putting anything up on the walls and things, but I'm sat in what used to be our garage, so we are pretty much done. We had an electrician in today to sort of sign off all the electrics that they'd put in. You sort of think maybe he should have been here to put them in the first place, but that's fine. Don't ask too many questions. No, so that's pretty much the end, and we just got a little bit of snagging and the usual merry dance, if anyone's had building work, of trying desperately to sort of hold back some money just so that our builders, who have been great, I've got to say, I won't say who they are, but unless they give a discount, but we have been kind of playing around with that last couple of £1,000 on the conversion, really, just to make sure that they come back and finish off exactly what they said they would. So yes, I feel for you, James. We had them here for 2 months, and it felt like a lifetime. So I hope it all goes well. Glad it's moving on. I
thought for a second, Giles, when you introduced that room, I thought you called it the nude room. I thought it was a room where you and Hannah wandered around naked, but obviously not.
I can neither confirm nor deny, but if it gets us some extra listeners, then I'll at least start the rumour. More likely, it probably scares people off. Go on.
Interestingly, in newscaster style, I've just got out of the shower, so I'm wearing a proper top for the podcast, and I'm wearing pyjama bottoms. So yeah, not nude, obviously, but just nice pyjama bottoms. So I'm comfortable, but business from the waist up, or podcast from the waist up.
Amazing. Yes, that's how we like it. You said about your story of falling in the mud, and I genuinely thought that would be less funny the second time, but I don't think it was, and I don't think the image of your legs like flapping around above it. I'm gonna enjoy that every time I think about it. And the Hogwarts Conservancy, you're right, I've been, but also Kirsty, one of our friends and a non-gamer who commented and said she enjoyed listening to watching the clips anyway, and listening to the podcast. She, I think, is a regular down there. I remember seeing her and her two sons sort of posting there. So yeah, a popular place, and I'd recommend it too.
And I got the name right today. I normally call it the Hawk Conservatory Trust, as in hawks flying around in a glass building, but today I got it right. It's the Hawk Conservancy Trust because they conserve hawks and other wild birds. Check it out.
There you go.
No sponsorship.
Anti-donkeys, by the sounds of it.
Yes, two lovely donkeys.
Bit random. No.
They're not flying donkeys, though. They're just walking donkeys. There's no flying donkeys.
Yeah. And thanks.
Next time.
Thanks on video there for signing what a flying donkey would look like. We might have
Very similar to that,
we might have to clip that. It's either a flying donkey or someone trying to tell people to calm down in a controversial...
In a Scouse accent,
yeah. Oh dear, we said we might go short, but I don't know why I keep saying that, because it never happens, does it?
Always go long.
Always go long. That sounds like a busy month, James. Mine has been my highlights. I went to the Siren Brewery with said Craig. He did the marathon, half marathon. So this was the week after. So he got to celebrate with a few thirds and a tour, which was really, really good. Recommend that one. Siren Brewery outside Wokingham, or they're actually opening a bar in Reading quite soon. So maybe we'll be able to meet up. Maybe we'll do a live podcast. We won't do a live podcast from there. It'll be too noisy, and they won't have us.
You can barely do a non-live podcast.
No. Okay, we'll start with a recorded option. Try and just get it right first time, and then
Yeah,
maybe live is in the roadmap for the future.
definitely.
So that was really fun. Also, we've mentioned our friends Madeline and Scotty a few times on the pod, and Hannah and I went round there and we played Cluedo Escape with them, which I would recommend. Really, there's a series of them by the looks of it. We thought there was just one, which was the one we played, which is called The Midnight Hotel. And it is kind of Cluedo related. You've got the usual sort of cast of Professor Plum and all that sort of jazz, and there is a murder. But it's not quite what you'd expect. It's sort of like an untimed escape room. But while you're solving puzzles, you also sort of build the board. Hard to explain, but really, really fun to do. It's a one-time game, unfortunately. So it's about 15 quid, I think, for them. So if you've got some friends over for the night, it's probably worth it. But also, you don't damage anything, and it even explains to you how to set it up to give it on to someone else. So James, cool. I think we said last time, but I'll send that your way if that's all right.
Yeah, you remember that Sarah was very good at Cluedo. Our Christmas do we had in Herefordshire. So will she be good at the Cluedo escape room? That'd be interesting.
Sarah is, is a prodigy. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Or is that just when you're very young? But Sarah is, Sarah's obviously very young, in a respectable way. I'm not sure how
still
to keep this balance. Sarah was amazing at Cluedo. Almost before, I'd just about worked out where I should be writing stuff down by the time that she'd sort of cracked the case. That was incredible. Has she ever considered a career in, like, crime solving of some description? I guess she is, to some extent.
Yeah, that's what we all are. It's the best place to be. But no, she always wanted to be a detective when she was younger. She wanted to get into various different things. But there we go, we are where we are. And she still likes to watch crime dramas and detective dramas and that kind of stuff. And stuff about serial killers she likes as well. So, hey, moving on.
Awesome. Yeah. Welcome to therapy with James and Giles. So the escape room, highly recommend that. That was really fun. I've been watching lots of football because I'm an Arsenal fan, and we have a vague chance of winning the league this year. So that's been very exciting, although we've had the usual roller coaster this month, getting knocked out of various things. And something relevant for the pod, I think last month, you tasked me with recommending something beginning with D. Unfortunately, I've failed miserably on that, even with an extra few days to find something.
Yeah, very poor.
Very poor. But I did watch the first episode of Fallout on TV, which is on Amazon Prime. Really recommend it. I wonder if any listeners have seen it, actually, because it's obviously based on a very successful game property. Had great reviews, so I checked it out, and it was indeed really good. Quite gory, so not family friendly, but with a really kind of black humour, kind of silly sense of what it is. And I think you'll know by the first sort of ad break or fade to black if you're kind of on board, because there's just it starts very strong and it carries on for the whole first episode. So there's only, I think, about 8 in the series, 8 to 10. But I just started that one and would recommend it.
Yeah, I think my internet friend Alex, who makes video games for a living or is involved in a company who does some video game making, he's got a game coming later this year at some stage, which I'll put on my wish list on Steam. Which I'll mention in the future when it's going to come out.
Yeah.
But she was a massive Fallout fan, so she was really looking forward to the series coming out. So I think she's been binge watching that since she came out. She's one of her favourite games is Fallout over the years. So yeah, obviously appeals to lots of people, just like The Last of Us did. So there seems to be lots more movie TV show adaptation of video games. So maybe we should do a pod about that one day in the future. Next month, maybe.
Great idea. Thanks for the recommendation, James. And there will definitely be a cut there if I remember. Excellent. Right. You mentioned Last of Us. Any podcast news out there? Interactions? I think we've been inspiring people in the Facebook group, haven't we, to start new games?
Yeah, our friend Scotty, who we mentioned earlier, trying to get him to play The Last of Us for a long time, because I think it'd be his kind of thing. Most of it. He's not a big fan, as we'll come on to later, of walking simulators, whereby you just do a lot of walking and touching and doing things. Touching? Random. Walking and doing little things. He's more of an action type person. But The Last of Us, I think, is a good combination of action and walking around playing guitars and having a little chit chat. So it's a nice blend of both. So he started that one, and he commented that the first about 10, 15 minutes of The Last of Us, the original one, was like, wow. And it is probably one of my favourite first 10 minutes of a video game ever. The original The Last of Us is really dramatic and suspenseful, and sort of everything unfolds in front of your eyes. And then obviously there's that cliffhanger moment at the end of the first sequence, which is quite mind altering. I'm trying to think of a word. I couldn't think of a word. Memorable, special, dramatic, intense. Yeah. It's a kind of video game moment that you remember for all other video games for the next 10 years. So
absolutely.
He seemed to like it, so that was good.
And if you are on board with that series, there will be plenty more memorable moments throughout the two, and hopefully more entries. Scotty, if you're listening and you're carrying on through The Last of Us, there's plenty of twists and turns to follow.
Interestingly, I did one meme on our Facebook page about Ellie having a missing finger and how she's going to play the guitar, and it was keeping someone awake at night. And then Maddie innocently commented that it was to do with my little Ellie sculpture that fell off the table and broken her foot last month. I said, if only it was just related to the poor little Ellie sculpture. If you play The Last of Us 2, there's quite a big moment in the game. There's a lot of quite big moments in the game. It's quite disturbing in parts. Anyway, sorry, yes. Do continue.
That's absolutely fine. I was going to say, in terms of the other socials, so as James said, he looks after Facebook. I tend to post on our other social platforms. I've been a bit quiet, so my sort of new month's resolution for May is to be a bit more active. But I did want to shout out to a couple of people, or a group of people. First of all, our lurkers. We keep talking about people we know or people who've commented on posts and things, but we know there are some listeners and some followers out there who don't interact with us or haven't yet. And I wanted to shout out to you guys and encourage you. Please do get in touch if you would like to. Obviously, we also very much appreciate you if you just want to lurk around in the background, like something from The Last of Us. That's a good way to say people again, isn't it? And just one more shout out, because I forgot last month and I really wanted to say hi to John Braid, a long-term friend of both of ours, who I think is our first binge listener, because he had reason to travel up and down the motorway quite a lot recently, and he messaged me saying, finally listened to the first pod, sorry it took so long, really enjoyed it, or something to that effect. He can correct me in a future episode. That was the gist of it. And I thought, that's really nice. And then he just, over the next kind of week, he was messaging me about future episodes, or that would be weird. He was messaging me about subsequent episodes. If he's messaging me about episode 7, 8, 9, I'm going to start to think something funny's up. But anyway, if you got to the end of that long tribute, John, hi, welcome, and really, really pleased that listening to us got you through those journeys. Particularly, I know what you were heading towards. So appreciate that we lightened your day a little bit.
I was going to say, talking about long-term memories like we just were, one of my all-time favourite members of John from when we were at school together. That's when me and Giles knew each other originally, and John and lots of our other listeners. We used to run a school tuck shop for Young Enterprise, which made us a bit of money in the end, which is quite nice. We used to sell penny sweets and crisps and chocolate and all sorts of things. And one day, John, for some reason, was jumping up and down in the middle of the tuck shop. And we used to have those really old-fashioned strip lights across the top. And John jumped up, smashed his head on the strip lights, smashed glass everywhere, went and all the penny sweets all over the place. Bless him. So that was one of my favourite memories of John. There's lots of wonderful memories of nights out over the years. And the fact we used to call each other Pecker for no obvious reason, but the strip light smashing was a fond memory. So, hi, John. Hope you're well.
That is that's going to be hard to top, isn't it? In terms of sort of a memory that will stick with people's minds. If you smash a light over your head, that's some proper hardcore wrestling stuff right there. Excellent. Right. Well, as is traditional, we've had a good catch up, but the name of the podcast is indeed Aches and Games. So one of the other regular things that we did is this news to you, James. You look shocked. Excellent. We'll work on that. We'll brainstorm some other ideas. We also usually, if you're a new listener, we talk about what we've been playing for the month. So James, do you want to start us off?
But interestingly, we don't talk about aches. We just talk about games.
Oh, we do.
Missing the trick there.
We talk
Yeah,
a
we do.
lot about. There are a lot of ache conversations in Monday's failed recordings. So you may or may not, if you're listening, be pleased that you missed out on that one.
Yeah. Still got very painful Achilles though, but on both sides. Too much football. Anyway, yeah, I played lots of games during April, including, like I mentioned earlier, Joshua made me play Fortnite finally. I've always resisted the temptation to play Fortnite. Didn't really want Joshua playing it at first because it sounded quite violent. So he only started playing it like 6 months ago. But he convinced me to play in the end. I watched him a few times and I thought, why not give it a go? So I set up my own account from scratch, hence the new username for the Xbox, James the Boy 78, and some other stupid characters afterwards. But Fortnite's actually quite fun. It's much more fun to play than it is to watch. And roughly speaking, we've only done the Battle Royale part with no build. So you get dropped out of a bus on a balloon and then you fall off from the sky to a waypoint that you preset. And then you pick up some weapons and you shoot other people, and 100 people start the Battle Royale, and you've got aiming to be the last one, or in our case, we're doing it with duo, so the last two in the game. And the first 4 times we played it together, we were the top people. We were the last ones to die. So Joshua really enjoyed that bit of notoriety. And it was good fun. I managed to kill some people. I shot some people with various different things. You can do air bending and fire bending and water bending and air bending and other types of bending. And we killed some people, and it was good fun.
Sorry, I have to get
your face.
That's just my face. I was just thinking actually on Fortnite, just quickly. Did you notice you can't play it in first person? So it's a third person shooter, isn't it? It's sort of over the shoulder behind you. Do you know why? Or do you know this? There's a really weird.
No.
So in the UK, I'm not sure if it's true, international listeners, of which we do have some, please do let us know if there's anything similar in your countries. But in the UK, if you are a first-person shooter, or if the game is a first-person shooter, because they're not sentient yet, then you automatically would get a 15 rating. So you can't be a first-person shooter, because apparently the psychological research that the ratings company rely on say that because you're doing if you're first person, whereas you are controlling a character if you're third person. So one of the reasons Fortnite, I think, has become so successful partly is that it's obviously a broader audience because it's a bit cartoony. It's sort of all got the tie-ins and done all that really well. But also, automatically, I believe being a first-person shooter, unless something's changed, makes you a 15, and so it excludes some of the younger players.
I can't tell you how fascinating it is, Giles. Thank you for that. A little bit of knowledge.
For the listeners who use this podcast to days off to, like Hannah, then I think I've probably just cracked it. So say goodbye to our sleepy listeners and carry on.
That's the most exciting part since I mentioned fricative alliteration 2 episodes ago. So congratulations.
That was my favourite.
You've out-geeked me. Fortnite's really good fun. We played the Lego tie-in part of it as well, which involves lots of building, so that was more like Lego Worlds, but really good fun. And like Giles said, it's quite cartoony and there's no blood and guts and gore, so it's generally as wholesome as you can get for shooting strangers on the internet and trying to kill 98 people you don't know. But also there's lots of songs in it, so there's lots of recent songs that have sort of been remixed on there and people do emotes to and little dances to, and Joshua loves all that one. So one of the songs that Joshua picked up was The Real Slim Shady. So he asked me to play that on Amazon Music for him. So I found a clean version. He was bopping along to that one. So he knows a lot of his music history and culture now from playing Fortnite. And I think Billie Eilish now is the new season pass highlight character for the new season. So that'd be quite fun as well, with her green hair looking quite funky. So yeah, good game. Quite enjoyed it. Probably not something I play on my own, but when Joshua's around, it's quite good fun. So that's one big thing we've played this month. We also tried to use the Switch, which we've not used that much since you got it for Christmas. So we played Lego DC Supervillains on the Switch, which we found a bit difficult because the controller's very different. Obviously, with the Xbox, you've got proper sticks and buttons and the like. But on the Switch controller, if you're playing 2-player, you only get the tiny little Joy-Con at the end with one joystick and a couple of little buttons in the middle. So it's quite difficult to use if you've got decent-sized hands. So we found it hard to direct the character at first. But it's fine, and it's a good game. And we do like the Switch now, and it's quite useful because we can now take it on holiday and do bits and pieces. So that was fun. Shall I keep going, or do you want to cover a couple of games and then I'll come back to me to save my boring voice, boring everyone off?
Yeah, I could jump in if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
but given I've been talking about playing Hogwarts Legacy for about 6 years, or it feels like it, then I can, with pleasure, confirm that I managed to complete it last night. So
Hurrah.
James is visually weeping for anyone
I
listening.
was raising the roof,
He
Giles, is
was
what I was
raising
doing.
the roof. Is that
Yes,
an emote on Fortnite? Probably is.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. So yeah, no, pleased to say I finished it in a couple of ways, I guess. Number one, I have mixed feelings about that game. I really, really enjoyed it in parts, and I came to quite resent it in others. And so I was thinking maybe I need a few more days to sort of properly reflect on how I feel about it. I guess I'd give it a 7, a good in my sort of
Oh,
scale. And that's a mixture of some real highs, like I said, so real positives. Let's go with the highs. The setting's fantastic. If you're into the Wizarding World, you're in Hogwarts and in the surrounding areas. You get to, ride hippogriffs and fly broomsticks and do all the stuff that you really wanted to. So they really nail that. Some of the levels, some of the quests are really fun, particularly involving some of the animals, dragons. There's one towards the end, which I hadn't played last time we tried this, James, which was the Lord of the Shore, which is like a big kind of monster thing that you battle, and then there's a bit of a twist, which I won't spoil, and then the finale, which was a real like roller coaster. So those things I thought were excellent, and there was also a really good level, a bit like the bit in one of the Deathly Hallows films where it goes into a sort of animation of the story, which is kind of in a sketch style, so completely different visual, completely different style of gameplay as well, sneaking around, and a bit of sorely needed variety, I thought, because for my sort of complaints about it or downsides, I would say it did feel quite repetitive. The combat in particular I found really quite repetitive, despite the fact that you've got like a gazillion different spells, and maybe that was partly just me defaulting to the same ones, but it felt like there were some that were much more effective than others, so I found my way there. The enemies, I thought there wasn't really that much variety. So for a game that lasts a long time, or did for me, just felt that it could have done with a little bit more variety. And then a bit of grinding. I got to the stage where I really just wanted to mainline the main quest, and I needed to get up through various like levels in my sort of character to be able to access the next one. And that mechanic, which is in some really, really good RPGs in particular, I've never clicked with that. I want to go at my own pace. I don't want to be penalised for going more quickly through a game. And so really mixed feelings. When it was good, it was magical, for want of a better word. And when it was bad, I thought it really just started to grind my gears. So really strange experience playing Hogwarts Legacy. For me, an action adventure in that world would have been perfect, and that wasn't what it was trying to be, so it's a bit unfair to judge it on those terms. But as an RPG, I thought some of the sort of side quests and some of the stuff that you'd usually really sort of feel part of that world and enjoy, some of those side quests weren't desperately interesting for me either. So mixed feelings. Really pleased I played it. Really appreciated getting it. Especially, I don't think the giver will be listening, family member. But I really appreciated it. I really wanted to play it. Really enjoyed it. But there's so many good games out there at the moment. I'm also now really pleased to have finished it. So that was most of my month. I got a couple of little ones to pick off. But James, back to you.
Yeah, I played loads of stuff. Mad Games Tycoon 2 was the thing I played most in the month. As you know, I like my simulation/tycoon games, so that's very much quite involved. You set up a computer type company in the 70s when the technology was first coming out. All the names of all the different products are loosely associated with the real product. So it's a Tapple rather than an Apple for the first computer. And it goes like that for the entire next 80 years of video game history, which is good fun. So you pick a team of people, you recruit designers and developers and researchers and console builders and workshop people who make arcade machines and stuff, all that kind of jazz. That's really good fun. You pick what type of game you want to make. You research all the different elements of it, and then you gradually build the game and release it and see how it gets on. So you can then move on to building consoles, so you can create your own console to sort of compete against the Segas and the Nintendos and all the other stuff from the past. So that's really good fun as well. And I really enjoyed it. I spent hours and hours and hours on it. I was probably playing it sort of 2 hours most evenings. And it was really good fun. I played it a couple of years ago, and I started playing again this time. Kind of regretted it because I knew it would probably take over my life a bit for a few weeks, and it did again. But I did better this than I did last time, and it was really good fun. And it also gives you a good insight into the games industry. So it lists, you can make games in like 15 different categories, including first-person shooter and third-person shooter, which we discussed just a minute ago, including interactive movies, which is sort of part of our topic later, as to what constitutes a game and what doesn't. So it's quite interesting to look at the behind-the-scenes bits of it, and there's a nice, pleasant amble through history as well, because obviously in episode 1, please do have a look back. The quality of the audio was awful, but the content was great, as always. We talked about our first original consoles and video games computers that we had, so it's nice to look back into that one and sort of feel like you're part of that world. So really good fun. I recommend it to anyone, unless you don't like things that are quite tedious on the surface. I also started playing Harold Halibut, which I talked about last month as being something I really look forward to coming. And similar to your Hogwarts Legacy experience, I liked it in part, but it really annoyed me in part as well. And it's much easier to talk about the parts that annoy me because they're more fun. Yeah. So I posted a reel on our Facebook page about him walking upstairs. And for a generally graphically well-produced game, him walking upstairs is horrific because his ankles bend at like 90 degrees. Every time he walks up a step, he slips back down to the step below. And it just looks horrific. And considering how much time you spend wandering around the gaff and walking upstairs, it's a really annoying part of the game. And every time I see him walk upstairs, it sort of makes me go, "Rah," puts me right off. Another bit I didn't like is that there's too much walking around generally. To go from one location to another location, you're like literally pressing left on the joystick for 45 seconds to get to the left, and then you get out the left, and then 45 seconds in the other direction to get somewhere. It just seems a bit pointless. One location to the next one. If you could teleport, it'd be much more interesting. But the other annoying thing is it didn't require much skill because you have a little iPad type, tablet type thing in your hand, and it uploads all your tasks onto it and all your messages you get. So you get a task, you walk left, get in the lift, walk right, get out the lift, do the task, walk back, get back in the lift, get back out the lift, and each task updates itself. So it gradually gets a bit samey after a while because it requires no skill to do any of the tasks.
Yeah, that's the disappointing thing for me, because I thought it was going to be a sort of puzzle, kind of a puzzle adventure, a bit like the old LucasArts games, and it's got a really beautiful sort of stop motion style, doesn't it? A bit like Wallace and Gromit. But it sounds like that it's not really puzzles. It's just go over here and press this, and then go somewhere else and press something else. Yeah,
it's literally talk to this person, then you've got to, like in the old days, you've got a choice of 5 things you could say, but you just work for each of the 5 things and you don't really get anything out of it. And then it gives you, go and talk to this person about what you just spoke to that person about. It's like, don't really want to. It's a bit tedious. And everyone talks too slowly as well. I like games that move at quite a pace. So when you go into one of those sequences of asking questions, they talk really slowly. And obviously it puts up the text as well. So you read a text in like 2 seconds and then they spend like 25 seconds blabbering on what you've just read. And you're like, please just hurry up. So it's really nice features to it. The graphics are great. The storyline's great. It's a really good concept. The stop motion stuff's great. It's really well done in a sort of Wallace and Gromit type style. But the game for me is slightly too slow. And do you know what really annoyed me about the game, Giles?
No.
Whilst I'm on the soapbox. I played it on Xbox Game Pass on the PC, so it was free of charge. So that didn't annoy me. That was great.
That sounds good.
But annoyingly,
damn free stuff.
2 days out of 5, my save didn't save.
Oh, no.
So you like put 3 hours into it, you come back to it the next day and it took you back to 3 hours before, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do those 3 hours all over again. It's not enough.
So I don't think I'm breaking any NDAs. Maybe. To say that previously I've done some games testing, and certainly for some of the companies, the game not saving. That would be an instant fail for certification. So that's annoying, and they obviously found it either just as sort of tedious as you did, or they didn't do a very good job that day because it shouldn't have got through.
Yeah, I mean, when I researched afterwards, it seems to be fine on Steam. That seems perfectly fine, but I think it's more the Xbox app on the PC platform that doesn't always save progress that well. But I wasn't enjoying it enough to put 3 more hours into my life going back over exactly the same routine as I'd done 3 hours previously. So I've given up on it now. I've got like halfway through and now I've given up because I can't be asked.
Well,
so that was that one. Really annoying. Lots of potential, but really slowly delivered. There we go. That was that one. I'll keep moving on. Man of Lords came out finally. That was one of the top Steam wish-listed games. I think it's number 2 of all time wish-listed Steam games, and is now the number 1 Steam game in terms of users at the same time. That's really good. It's like an oldie worldy Manor Lord type environment whereby you set up a small little hamlet at first. You set up buildings that work alongside other buildings. So you've got a woodcutter and they cut some trees, and then you have a sawmill and they saw the trees to make into planks. The usual stuff you find in those kind of games, but it's really nicely done. And the first aim is to survive the first year. And it's quite easy to fail because you can quickly run out of food if you haven't set the mechanics up correctly. There's also battle parts to it, which I've not got to yet because I've only played it like 2 or 3 hours just to give it a go. But it looks really good. All the reviews have been really positive, and considering it was designed and made and developed by just one person over a period of 7 years, I think it's incredible achievement from one person. So awesome game. Very much recommend it if you like the building type, city building type, that kind of stuff. So again, really good game there. Any more for you, Joe, before I crack on with the rest of mine?
I'd jump in just because I forgot them on Monday, so I really wanted to remember them this time.
Monday? What happened Monday?
Monday, yeah. I think I said before we recorded, let's not just go back and berate ourselves for Monday, and I'm doing it all the time. But this is a positive, so this we would have missed out in our first effort. And yeah, the two. So Hogwarts Legacy, I tend to play a bigger game and a sort of smaller game at the same time, depending on my mood, whether that's a smaller sort of narrative thing or whether it's like an arcadey thing or game of football or race or whatever. So in my sort of downtime, and also to earn Microsoft rewards so that I get free Game Pass, I played Open Roads, which I really wanted to recommend again to its audience, and I'm very mindful of our later conversation. Open Roads is very much a very limited interaction. It is a sort of road trip story between a mother and a daughter. The mother's played by Kerry Russell, who's the mum or the wife in The Americans. She's been in, I think she was Felicity in a comedy show back in the day. She's really, really good actress. And just the acting in this, I think, is brilliant. You mentioned Harold Halibut. The story was what was driving you forward. This is all story. It's a very short game. It's a couple of hours. And funnily enough, it's almost like the bits in The Last of Us, apart from all the action, where you're just rummaging through drawers. It is broadly a walking simulator, so Scotty definitely would not like this one from his comment on Facebook, and definitely I can see a lot of people who are more action focused wouldn't enjoy this game. However, the story about the sort of family mystery and the relationship between the daughter and the mum is absolutely brilliant. It's actually, I thought, quite touching. They sort of tease each other in a really natural way. It's also set, I think, during the 90s or the 2000s. Certainly there's a sort of nostalgic kind of glow about the whole thing. And I really enjoyed it. A couple of hours, again, not much interaction. Essentially, you pick stuff up, you either read about it or you say, "Hey, Mum," and then she says something and builds the story, and then you put it down and move on. So there's really not much more to it than that. But I enjoyed that game. Is that your sort of thing, James? I know you enjoyed Edith Finch, but this is almost even less interaction than that game, I'd say.
Yeah, there's a little bit in Edith Finch where you could do some things. I can't remember exactly what it was. Some kind of factory, wasn't it, where you're and some people doing some. Yeah, but generally no. If they're short, I don't mind it. If it's like an hour or two, I enjoy getting a story out of it. If you treat it more like watching a film or reading a book, then it's fine. So if I'm in the mood for that kind of thing where I don't need to engage my brain particularly and just enjoy the storyline and the plot and see it develop, then yes. But most of the time I'm more interested in doing some things and achieving things. And unless I feel like I've achieved something, I don't get much enjoyment out of it sometimes. So that brings me on to Her Story, which is a game I played on the PC last month. We talked about it before because you played the follow-ups, I think, and really enjoyed them. So I gave this one a go, which is the first of the trilogy. You can call it a trilogy, it's 3 different games. But yeah, basically it's a person in Bournemouth, Brighton, Portsmouth, somewhere near the sea. Report coming to
If you at least got the right country, it's definitely the UK. So it was.
definitely the UK, definitely England, in fact.
Okay.
She walks into a police station to report the missingness of her husband, or reporting the fact that her husband's gone missing, if you wanted to use English words. And she's interviewed on the first day, and it's recorded on a video. And then there's sort of 6 subsequent interviews over the next week or so. And each video is archived using words. So you can go on to the police database and type in missing, and then any video clip that has the word missing in it will show you, like a 20-second video clip of where the person uses the word missing. So, roughly speaking, you're meant to piece together what actually happened to the missing husband and who did it, and the interesting family relationships that come out of it. But it started off brightly, in that me and Sarah played it together because we thought it'd be quite fun, because she likes the detective stuff, and we thought it'd be quite fun to work out the story. But then after about half an hour, whereby you piece bits together and look at different parts of the video, you kind of know what the story is. And then the only real aim of the game then is to try and look at every single video clip. So in the end, you've kind of worked out the story. You can't really be bothered to play it anymore. And then you're just putting in random words to see if they lead to video clips so you can complete the sequence. So we played it for a couple of hours one night. We all got rather bored of it in the end. And in the end, we kind of just gave up. So to finish the game, you just go on the little talkie icon. You talk to your detective sergeant. He says, "Are you happy that you know what happened?" You say yes, and then the game ends. So there's no like big fanfare. You just get the sequence, and you're like, was it really worth the effort? So fun, nice story, interesting story. It's very similar to one I've seen in the film once with respect to twins. So there's lots of interesting sibling type stuff in there. And you never really are completely sure at the end of the game what the story actually was. You see it from both sides of the 2 twins, but you never actually know if they are twins or whether one's just having a fantasy or what the actual outcome is. So it left us both feeling a little bit unsatisfied because we didn't get a big fanfare for completing it. We never actually completed it because we got bored and gave up, and you're never really sure what the actual story ever was in the first place. So we enjoyed it for a while, but found it a bit boring in the end. So that was very much, there's no action involved at all. We're just typing in a word, pressing enter, and seeing what video came up. So that kind of wasn't really my thing in the end. Annoyingly, because you really liked the 2 follow-ups, didn't you?
Yeah, I love his third game, so Immortality, and I'd highly recommend that. It's but the difference is, so the second game that he did was Telling Lies, which sounds like it's quite an evolution of her story in terms of that's text-based as well. You sort of go between video clips using sort of words that are coming up in the subtitles. I played on Xbox, so you just select the word. I'd imagine you type it in on PC. So that's kind of an evolution because it sounds like that's a bit more involved. There's more characters. I feel like you didn't know the story. There was a bit more going on to it with it than what you've described with her story, which I haven't played. And there is a bit more of an ending. There's a bit more of a kind of through line by the sounds of it. So maybe that's a bit sort of the same idea but moved on. Whereas Immortality, the third game is it's visual, so you'll jump between. So it's the story of a missing young actress, sort of Hollywood star potentially, who starred in these 3 different films, and you can see nearly all of these 3 films, and they're really well done. They're not good necessarily, because she's in quite a sort of schlocky kind of horror movie is one of them. One is a kind of art house film about artists and an artist kind of lifestyle. And the other one is a sort of kind of futuristic-y thriller. But there's those 3 films and lots of background and sort of press tour interviews and stuff. And you're trying to work out the mystery of what happened to her. But because it's more visual, I think it was much more engaging. The actress, she won, don't know the lady's name, which I should have checked before today. But she won, I think, a BAFTA, the game's BAFTA for performance. And it is really, really good. And I 100%ed that game. I got 1,000 gamer score for that game on Xbox. And I don't usually do that. And again, that was not just finishing the story, which took a long, took me through probably most of that naturally. But then I did go back and do what you've kind of described with her story of just picking up the sort of bits and pieces that I'd missed, just because I was genuinely, I just wanted to, felt a bit like a collector, you know, I just genuinely wanted to see the whole film sort of all the way through and be able to put it together in sequence and stuff. So, disappointed that didn't click for you, but sounds like it's kind of prototype of his ideas.
Yeah, it wasn't quite for me. It started off brightly, but it very quickly lost interest, unfortunately. Kind of a bit. Alice Madness Returns, I talked about last month. That's a really good game. Interestingly, I moaned last time that it's really hard to play on a keyboard because I didn't have quite long enough hands to get to the jump and the dodge buttons at the same time. But then Scotty cleverly mentioned that you could reprogram the keys, and I took it one step further and plugged in my DualSense from the PS5 into my PC and used that instead. So it's much easier to play using a joy pad rather than using keys. So an even better game now that I've got into it, and it's much easier to do the combat parts now that I've started using my DualSense. So it's much more like a console game now. Really great game, very much recommended. Still haven't got a long way for it, but it's really, really arty, great graphics, good characters, really good fun. Also, a game that I've only started playing over the last 3 days, so it's fortunate that last podcast didn't save because I wouldn't be able to talk about it. It's an awesome game called Inside. Don't know if you've ever played Inside, but Inside is awesome. Yes.
I love it, yeah.
Awesome game. So I've been playing that on the PC as well. I think that's on Game Pass as well, for free. So, again, with my controller, there's only like 2 buttons that you press. You either interact with something or you jump. That's pretty much the entire premise. So it looks like you're a sort of a young character, probably a young boy, and you're sort of running through an odd scenario in an odd location. I've not finished the game yet, so I don't know how it all ends, but you run away from... It starts really strangely in that you're sort of running along and then people are shooting at you from the road and then you die. And then you restart, and then you think, how am I going to not die? And then you hide behind things, and you jump over things, and you get behind little sequences. And then dogs start chasing you. These big black dogs start coming and rip you apart, and it's like, wow, it's pretty rough. So then you work out how to get away from the dog, and then you have people shooting at you with like tasers, where the metal coil comes and you then shoot up into the air, and that kills you as well. Awesome game. And then there's like an underwater mermaid thing with long hair, and that comes and rips you apart, and you're like, Jesus, what's going on here? So it's awesome. So you've got to solve lots of puzzles to get through each little bit. It's a complete side scroll. It doesn't go backwards or forwards or anywhere else. It just goes left or right, and you're just getting away from enemies. There's lots of people with white masks on, and then you can mind control people by putting on a little helmet, and then people do what you make them do. It's just brilliant. So every little part of it is awesome. And some bits are quite difficult, and you have to think about them for a few minutes before you can work out what you can interact with and what you can do. But I love those kind of games where you actually have to think about it a little bit, but you're also running away from baddies, and you seem to be achieving stuff because you move on to the next sequence. And most importantly, if you die, you don't go back like 15 minutes, you just go back to that start of that tiny little sequence. So I love it because you can keep dying and keep thinking about how you're going to get better at it. So yeah, one of my favourite games, Inside. And you've played it as well by the sound of it, G.
Yeah, and just second all of that. I just really enjoyed your description. I was thinking if someone hasn't played this game, are they getting a flavour of the kind of the madness, but also just it just sounds like we're crazy people when you say some of these games out loud in terms of what they involve. It just sounds like the sort of fever dreams of someone who's been bitten by a snake. But yeah, Inside, very, very good. It's by a company called Playdead. They also did a game called Limbo, which I'd highly recommend. Very, very, both very dark. They, I think they might be Swedish. And we talked about Bramble in a previous episode. Again, that kind of just Scandinavian sort of folklore-y. They seem to be quite happy with putting small children in sort of precarious positions, which, you know, I don't know. In real life, that would not be a good quality. But in terms of these stories, I think that makes them really compelling. And yeah, Limbo is also very good, very similar. Inside, I'm very interested. Please do cover off how you found the ending next episode. And I'll just leave it at that because it's kind of, it goes in a direction I didn't expect, but I still enjoyed it.
The game was so good, I actually took quite a few reels of it, so I posted them on the Facebook page in the next few days to show you what we're talking about if it doesn't make any sense. So wait till we launch a podcast tomorrow, and then I'll show you some reels of how I've been progressing in the game. You'll love it. It's really dark and mysterious and awesome. And when you get ripped apart by the dogs, you really do get properly mauled. It's really fun to watch if you like people being mauled by dogs.
Yeah, and listeners, there was a real smile on James's face as he mimed being mauled apart by dogs. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure we could paint that picture with words for you. Just on Playdead and on Inside, I mentioned in a previous episode Planet of Lana, which is a very similar but much more colourful game. I think that was a former employee of Playdead who went on to do that game. Similar mechanics, similar gameplay, different setting, bit more light, which was really good. And I also, in my games of last year, which was one of our early episodes, as James said, go back and check them out, would recommend Cocoon, which was a completely different game, puzzle game involving worlds within worlds. But that was also someone who came from that team that did Inside and Limbo. So the creative people behind those games have gone on to do some other brilliant games. So if you do enjoy it, James, you've got a little treasure trove of different, some similar, some different titles there. Sounds like Inside, Alice, or maybe Mad Games Tycoon would be your favourite of the month from the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. Mad Games Tycoon, definitely the one I've played for the longest. Alice, I keep dipping back into. I really enjoy it each time, but there's a lot of action. There's constant action in that game, so you can't play it for that long before you get knackered. And this Inside one, it's using my brain a bit for the last 3 days, so I've really enjoyed it. And we'll continue to play that one, so I'll be finishing Inside and let you know how it goes.
Fabulous. Well, before we move on, I know we've covered a lot, but it's been actually ties in really nicely with our topic, and I think we've probably given a sort of half time to that already. We can just round it off in a bit. But yeah, I played Dave the Diver just briefly, dipped a toe, if you will, for the first first day and first night of that cycle. Loved it from the first opening scene. Really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of interesting two gameplay styles. You kind of fish during the day and then you work in a sushi restaurant in the evening. It was free as part of PlayStation Plus. So regular listeners will know that we're bargain hunters or cheapskates, depending on your point of view. So I very much appreciated the price on that one. And that was the sort of thing that I had been sort of itching to play when I was playing Hogwarts. So I just wanted to crack that open. And then lastly, Erica was the other sort of palette cleanser that I had during my Hogwarts Legacy days, which is an interactive thriller. It's very much, it's more of a movie than a game, really, but you are picking dialogue choices, but also doing some interaction. So more interactive than Open Roads. You're doing things like... there's a bit towards the end in particular where one of the characters is in a pretty bad way, and if you pick the right antidote and the right combination and the right dosage and all this, you can save them, and you physically act that out. So that's pretty fun, and I did. So that was quite satisfying. I think I would have found that sequence less satisfying if they'd have died on me, but there we go. Just one oddity about Erica, it was free with PlayStation Plus a long time ago on the monthly game, so it's about £8 I think to buy, and it's very short, so I wouldn't recommend that. But if it's on a Steam sale, or it's actually playable on iOS, on your iPad or on your iPhone, that's probably the best way to play it, because you play it essentially with touch. And on the PS5, you're using the touchpad to control things, which doesn't really work very well. On the PS4, you could link up your phone and use your phone to control it, but that doesn't work with the new generation for some reason.
Okay.
And I think it would work really well just as an iPhone or an iPad game. And it's quite a B-movie type of story, but it's fun. It's a kind of fun nonsense, the sort of film you might watch sort of late at night with a few beers. So I would recommend that one. Good stuff. Right. I think we've covered everything, James. We've got a few pieces of news, unless I missed something.
No, just the upcoming stuff. So yeah, crack on with the news, shall we?
Yeah, well, that's because, again, on Monday, Xbox had a little indie showcase, which covered a lot of games that are on coming to Xbox, but also to PlayStation and PC. And I think you had a few to kind of highlight from that. A cat-based one was one of the things that jumped out.
Yeah, only because I always try and find games that Maddie might enjoy. Being she doesn't like games particularly, but listens to us because she likes us most of the time. So there's a couple of cat games coming out. The big one being Little Kitty, Big City, which is only going to be on the Xbox and the Switch, I believe. So it's not going to be on the PlayStation. Boo hiss. But effectively, you are lost in a big city, and you are a little kitty. Probably giving away in the title. And it's sort of an adventure game where you're trying to find your way home, but you create lots of chaos and japes along the way and make lots of new friends. So if you like cats and adventures and Xboxes and Switches, that's probably the game for you. So it's a massive deal, that one. It comes out on May the 9th, which is only a week away, depending on when you listen to it. If you're listening on the 10th, it's already out. Hooray. If you're listening on the 2nd, it's a week away. So, yeah, it looks like a really good game. There was another cat game as well, which I posted about on our Facebook page, but I'm not going to mention it here because I've forgotten the name. So look on our Facebook page. Great incentive to go over there. And that's a bit more violent looking. So it's sort of a cat doing violent things to other animals. So it looks really fun as well, but in a very different way to Little Kitty Big City. So 2 great cat games for Maddie to enjoy if she's in a violent mood or if she's in a happy, smiley mood. Either way. Perfect. So there's that one. But also in the animal field, or when we're talking about animals, there's Animal Well. And Animal Well is coming out on the opposite. So it's coming out on PlayStation, Switch and PC. So not for you Xbox nerds. So awesome. Animal Well is sort of, as Giles mentioned earlier, with Day of the Diver, it's like an old graphic-y type, 8-bit graphic-y type game, which looks really cool in a sort of a striking, odd, low-key graphic type way. So it's sort of a Metroidvanian puzzle and exploration game. Yeah, g'day.
You look
and it's got bits of platform.
With
I'm delighted with it. And it's got bits of platforming stuff in it, but no combat, I believe. So it looks quite scary, but you jump around a lot and you do adventures and you find new locations as you sort of explore bits of the map. So it looks really fun, and it's got lots of striking white cats that come out and go, ah. But apparently there's no combat, so you don't kill the white cats that go, ah, you just look at them and run away, I guess. So Animal Well, another big deal, that's also coming on the 9th of May. So 9th of May is a massive game if you like animals and cats in particular. Eddie, you're looking forward to G before I come back to more?
Well, I thought you were going to carry on with the animal theme, so I'll leave you that one. But yeah, the two that jumped out to me because I went back and watched it over the last few days. Dungeons of Hinterberg. I'm afraid I don't know what it's coming to. It's coming to Game Pass, I know, and I think it's on PC as well. But that just looks beautiful, very sort of comic book, cartoony, cel-shaded sort of style. But what really stood out to me was it's sort of 2 parts. It's a sort of chilled exploration in 3D, but it's about a character who's sort of, I think they've decided to sort of leave a sort of city life and a busy job and go to like the Swiss Alps or something. It's a really kind of pastoral, lovely, relaxing sort of, that was the first trailer. And then the second trailer, which was yesterday, and the name suggests with the dungeons that it somehow, and I'd be interested how these two sides marry, it's got dungeons in the sort of Zelda sense, so real, like, it looks like a lot of puzzle manipulation, and that's coming in the summer to Game Pass. I think it was July, and especially, in that sort of nice weather where you want to go out and explore and do things, hopefully in real life a little bit as well. But it sounded like a perfect summer game, so that was one that jumped out. And the other one was Lost Records, which has a subtitle, which I'm probably going to get wrong, but it's, I think, Rage and Bloom. And that's from Don't Nod, who did the Life is Strange series, which again is how would I describe it? Life is Strange is not an action-heavy series, but it's also more interactive, I would say, than some of the games that we've been talking about so far, or that I've been talking about so far today. The first Life is Strange was really special to me. I listened to the soundtrack still, love some of the stuff in that, really enjoyed the game, enjoyed the prequel that was made, and the sequel, and various other spin-offs. There's been 5 or 6 games, I think, from either Don't Nod or a team called Deck 9 who did the spin-off. And Lost Records is their new one. It's away from that universe because they've not got the rights to it, honestly, anymore. But it's also interestingly set again in the 90s, which, from a nostalgia point of view, is going to really press some buttons for me. And it's also just an intriguing premise. It's 2 time periods. So it's a group of friends in the 90s and then sort of grown up as modern day. So the combination of the sort of Life is Strange style of game and sort of focus on character, plus there seems to be a bit of a mystery, plus the nostalgia, just looked like a winner. So those were the 2 for me.
The only downside is I like to nod along with you in agreement. Every time you keep saying don't nod, I'm like, ugh. But then obviously you're not talking to me, you're talking about the game. All good. There's another few funky ones coming up, which I'd like to highlight. Another Crab's Treasure came out came out about 3 or 4 days ago, and we downloaded it for Joshua to play. And the premise of that one is you're a hermit crab, but being that you can't pay your taxes, the taxman takes your shell away and runs away with it. So you're meant to be going after your shell to get it back. Because a hermit crab with no shell is just a crab with no shell. A shell-less crab. So there's
is that what you
an undressed crab? Naked crab. Oh, was dressed crab got shell or no shell?
I mean, it's late to be going on a tangent, so I regret bringing it up. But I've always found it a bit confusing. But I think if you ask for your crab dressed, I think that means it's like prepared and therefore taken out of the shell. Anyway, we'll come back to it.
Next episode we'll cover that.
Listeners, if you've got good crab knowledge, send it in. Please correct us. Go for it, James.
Yes. What was I saying? So you can inhabit
Trevor.
You can inhabit 69 different shells, including things like a tennis ball, and that gives you different powers. So if you inhabit the tennis ball, you can then bounce around and do tennis ball-y type things. Cool. So every shell you get, it gives you some kind of superpowers, and you're meant to kill lots of people. It's meant to be a bit like a Souls-like type game, whereby there's lots of enemies and villains, and it's meant to be quite difficult, and Joshua played it and struggled. And if you get killed, you go back a fairly long way, which is quite irritating. So he didn't like it because you have to go back a long way to start again. So, yeah. But it looked really cool. The graphics are awesome. The storyline's cool. It's very different being a crab-based game. There's not many crab-based games around. So I'll be playing that one myself, probably because Joshua wasn't that keen. Also coming up, I spotted one extra game the other day, which I'll highlight in a minute. But we've got Stampede coming up in a few months' time, which is a sort of Battle Royale / Mario Kart / everything else. That's coming on Xbox and PC in the summertime. You can play with up to 60 racers at a time in a battle royale format and try and knock them all off and kill them. That looks really good.
It does.
So that'll be fun. We've also got a game which I spotted the other day called Indica. It looks very interesting. It's a third-person adventure, and you play the part of a young Russian nun on a journey of self-discovery, and you're accompanied by the devil himself.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't know how you can sell a game better than that one.
That's pretty good.
But it looks, yeah. It's coming out in May, mid to late May, I think, on every type of console and PC type equivalent. And it looks really interesting. It looks quite dark. There's I think the devil follows you around in your head. So the devil talks to you and tries to get you to do stuff, but you're a nun, so you're trying to fight against it. So it looks really awesome. The graphics look great. The storyline looks great. So look into that one. You look surprised, Giles, as if you've never heard of it, which I feel like I've made something there. So I'm delighted with myself. So please look into that one, because I think it'll be your kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Russian nuns being possessed by the devil? It's a common storyline these days. Also, we've got the jackpot.
I think is the answer to that question, probably.
Although Whoopi Goldberg did find out of being on the run as a nun. So
I love that film.
Yes, but she wasn't possessed by the devil, as far as I'm aware.
As far as we're aware.
Yes. We've also got the Jackbox Naughty Pack coming very soon. That's got 3 adult-themed games. As everyone knows, the Jackbox packs from over the years were especially popular during lockdown, so you can play different games, like those different drawing games that you play as a group on your phone in different rooms in different houses. So it comes together as a group. You can play different ones and come up with witty punchlines, do different jokes, and all sorts of cool games. But this one is meant to be M-rated, so it's not R-rated, so it's not like over 18y, so it's not like frequent sex, but it's M-rated, which means there might be a little bit of sex or some sexual references or a bit risque. Yes. So that looks quite fun. So when that comes out, maybe we could all get together in our individual houses and play the M-rated Jackbox Naughty Pack. So that's my recommendations for the coming months. Any more from you, G?
Fantastic. Well, no, I really appreciate the, well, I say no, I mean yes. but only one. But I was just making a note of the Russian nun devil game.
Yeah.
Inika, wasn't it?
Indika. Indica.
Indica, excellent. I really fancy that, and it just reminded me of the game that I've been looking forward to for months, if not years, which is Hellblade 2, which is out around the 20th, 21st, I think, of May on Xbox, Game Pass, and Game Pass on PC. The first game was, I thought, brilliant. And it just reminded me because you talked about voices in your head. If you haven't played the first Hellblade, it's about 6 hours, I think. They recommend wearing headphones. I think everyone who's played it recommends wearing headphones. It's really, really good. It's action adventure, although it's sort of slightly slower paced. It was a very small team. The combat is a little bit limited. There's a bit of puzzle solving there, but the story is excellent. There's plenty of action in it, though. It's not a sort of walking simulator. And the sequel has been in development for some time. It was initially everyone, because it's called Senua's Saga. The first one is Senua's Sacrifice. And because it's got the word saga, I think, and because it was sort of highly advertised as a sort of epic, people were thinking it was going to be a massive, a much bigger game like The Last of Us 2 to The Last of Us 1. I think it's like 3 times the length. And it turns out it's not. They're actually releasing it at a sort of midpoint in terms of pricing. I think it's £40 in the UK, and it's going to be an 8-hour experience, similar focused experience. It looks stunning, and if they've tightened up the combat in particular, I think it could be a real Giles game. That one that might feature in my list for my expectations are very high, so let's hope that Sophie Ellis-Bextor wasn't right, and a pessimist is never disappointed.
Perfect. You mentioned voices in your head, and obviously Scotty's point was he tried out that demo of Silent Hill 2 that was free on the PlayStation that I talked about a couple of episodes ago, and he was disappointed by it because it involved lots of walking around, voices in your head, and not much interaction, which is why we decided to talk about as our topic of the month.
Excellent, James. Yeah, this is the audio equivalent of a cane coming on and trying to pull me off stage, saying, "Wrap it up, Giles." But that was a brilliant segue because, as you said, what we thought was so Scotty's feedback was, I think, word for word, and I think he was in a public forum, so he wouldn't mind me repeating. First comment was WTF. Second was, does it actually go anywhere? And third comment was, is this walking simulator a real thing? Then do people enjoy it? And I thought, I enjoy it. And then I listened to you over the podcast, James, and you seem to enjoy the sort of the other kind of simulators. And there are so many different types of games out there that it made me think worth kind of talking about the sort of variety that's out there and the sort of different games, and there's the ones that we enjoy, the sort of different categories that we enjoy. So, got me thinking. I've got some unusual choices, and I talked about them today. Erica was a interactive movie, essentially. Open Roads was very, very limited interaction, but I really enjoyed it. And yet, at the other end of the spectrum, I would happily play something much more actiony and really enjoy that as well. So, what's your thoughts in terms of what makes a game enjoyable for you?
Yeah, I think for me it depends on my mood sometimes. So sometimes I'm in the mood for, like if you've had a bad day at work or a long day at work and you just want to de-stress and play something that's not going to take too much brain power, then perfect. So I play I used to play the FIFA games before they lost the license, and it's now EA Football 24 or something similar, which is coming on Game Pass, by the way, this month. So please look out for that one. That'll be free. Just been announced if you like football and things that look a bit like FIFA. So those kind of things I can just play for hours without putting too much brain power into it. Sort of like muscle memory. Your fingers get used to how you do each of the moves in the football game, so you don't really have to think about it or put any brain power into it. You just play the game, and it's quite relaxing. You beat people, and it's quite fun. And every time you score a goal, you get a little endorphin release that makes you feel good about yourself. So those kind of games are really useful at certain points. Other times I really like to challenge myself and use my brain. So like that game Inside I was talking about, that was my kind of thing this week, because I was in a mood whereby I wanted to solve some puzzles and get my brain thinking and active and get some enjoyment out of completing the puzzle, setting a challenge and doing something. So I enjoy that side of things. Like I said, simulation games I've always been into. Since I was little, I've always liked city builders and different simulation games. Even when I was like 10, 11 on the Amiga, I used to play simulation games all the time, like Settlers and bits and pieces. So I like the idea of building something up from the ground. I always wanted, when I was little, to sort of run my own business and run my own hotel or run my own park. So those kind of things sort of satisfy that little urge in me to build something from scratch and see it be used. So I can play those games forever. Obviously, I've never in real life would want to do it because it's far too much hard work. I never want to work in a supermarket. I never want to work in a hotel. But playing them on a PC, you don't have to put too much life into it. You can just sort of experience it without actually having to go to work every day at a certain time and getting paid peanuts for doing a really hard job. So those kind of things I really get into sometimes. But like I said, it really depends on my mood. Sometimes I like to be challenged. Sometimes I like to not think about it and just give it a go. So I like all types of games in equal measure, but depending on the mood and what time I've got and what format I'm playing as well. Depending on whether it's console or PC, I like different games as well. So yeah, come back to me in a minute, but say your part first.
No, that's fine. And I think in that sense, in terms of liking variety, we're quite similar. But then the genres that we gravitate towards are slightly different, which is really interesting. Kind of hearing, it's always good hearing someone talking about something they enjoy, and trying to sort of get an understanding of what it is, what's that like, what's that hook, what's that bit that I've been maybe missing or not clicked for me. And the simulator stuff, I mean, I think you mentioned, I think it was on a previous podcast, that there was a sort of, it was on the Facebook page, that there was a sort of movie studio simulator coming out, and maybe that's my into that sort of world, because I did play a game on the PC years ago. I think it was called The Movies, which I really enjoyed. So I think with those things, I tried Age of Empires when it came to console, Age of Empires 2, and enjoyed it, but just found that I don't play regularly enough to sort of remember what was a really complex, even when it was quite well mapped to the controller, complex sort of resource management. But I certainly, although I think I like variety, I certainly seem to gravitate towards two genres. One, the sort of big action adventure, like I said, quite a linear story, quite a focused experience. I think when I talked about Hogwarts, again, probably quite telling that I enjoyed the through line of that game, but felt like I wanted to just sort of mainline through that and maybe not sort of go and explore too much, not create potions and do these sorts of side quests which involve more living in the world. So I think that's kind of telling. And when it comes to RPGs, played a couple that are shorter and smaller, more focused experience, like The Outer Worlds, which I think fans of the genre complained were sort of too small and too narrow and too limited. And for me, that was one of my favourites, conversely. So yeah, just interesting. I think that the sort of action adventure, and then the more either sedate experience, whether that's a sort of puzzle platformer, like you said, stretching the brain a bit, or just that kind of real interesting story and narrative based, and it's a bit less, it's a bit more passive. Those, I think, are the ones I tend to gravitate towards. Do you think you've got a jam that you go to most?
Yeah, probably those simulation games, really. The benefit of the simulation or tycoon game is you can do a little bit and then let it play itself for a while, and you can go out and do some housework or help Josh with his homework and come back and it's done the thing you've asked it to do and you're still there. So you don't have to concentrate all the time. You can just do a little bit, stop concentrating, check some stuff on your phone, go off and have a wee or whatever, come back to it and carry on. Whereas like the real action games like Ratchet and Clank, you couldn't wander off in the middle of that one because you have to constantly be doing some stuff.
Oh yeah.
And interestingly, stuff like The Last of Us, like Scotty mentioned, the first 10 minutes was really exciting, and that's the only thing that got me into those type of games. So those type of games before I used to hate the idea of, like Red Dead Redemption. Whenever I tried it out when I was selling a console or selling a game, you just start off by riding a horse a lot, and really it's not for me at all. But then I got into The Last of Us purely because of the exciting opening to it, and that got me hooked on that kind of thing. So I think it's all about how good the game is rather than the genre. So there's some great games for me in every genre, but there's some really stinkers as well, which I could never get into. So most recently, as we discussed for the last few pods, I've played Ratchet and Clank a lot. I've played Supermarket Simulator, and I've played Mad Games Tycoon, which is very different. And now I've got into that Manor Lords, which is very different again. Like I said, that puzzle game that I've got into Inside, again, very different. So I can play all sorts of different games and enjoy them all equally. The only one I probably struggle with is, like I said, Her Story, because there wasn't enough to do. So I need to do certain things every now and again. If there's no things to do at all, I get bored quite quickly. So I need to do some things, but I need to do the things all the time.
Yeah, and I always think that's a nice lead-in, because I was thinking about the any sort of really popular games or genres that I just haven't clicked with. And interestingly for me, that's probably is the Souls-like sort of genre. So maybe Another Crab's Treasure is my kind of into there, because it does look great, especially as a sort of fan of the platformer and the sort of quirkier game. That sounds like a good in. And I know, again, Scotty and a couple of other listeners have mentioned, Elden Ring. Scotty, I think Sekiro is one of his favourites. And I just find the sort of punishing nature of those games, it's not quite clicked with me yet, but maybe it will one day. So yeah, I think what we're saying is there's so much variety out there now, more I think than ever. Games are going through a bit of a hard time in terms of making games. There's still layoffs in the industry, which is pretty confusing to watch. There was some more even announced today, with actually what seemingly a really successful little studio got closed. The people behind, I was going to say, is it Roller Drome, I think? But anyway, it was really sold over 1 million copies, seemed to do really well. They got closed, so not a great time for the industry, I think. But in terms of gamers, you've got so much choice out there. You've got access through the subscription services or through sales to all kinds of bargains. If you're on PC, you can play pretty much anything from the last however many years if you can get it working, which you usually can. Even on console now, you've got the backwards compatibility, and people are playing stuff from further ago than they ever were. So loads of variety. We're not all going to love everything, but it feels like there's something out there for everyone. So hopefully,
yeah. No, I was just going to say, I don't think there's any bad genre. I think there's a lot of bad games, but there's some certainly stars in every genre if you get into the right ones in the right mood. And also, like you said, everyone's different. So as long as it brings you a bit of enjoyment and a bit of pleasure and a bit of fun, in what can be quite a tedious and gloomy life sometimes, then all the power to it. So there's something out there for everyone. So if you aren't greatly into video games, which is strange if you got this far on a podcast about video games, you don't like them, but there is something out there for everyone. So just give it a go, and you might find something you like eventually. And if you do, tell us about it on our Facebook page so we can all play it.
100%. Oh, spot on, James. I was going to go with the plug there. Yeah, let us know if you, equally, if there's something that you love and other people have told you they didn't enjoy, sell it to us. We really want to hear your thoughts on what you enjoy, and what how you would convince someone to give it a try. And we'll try things out if we can, and get back to you how we think it was.
Or equally, if there's games that everyone loves and tells you should play and you've tried it and you think they're awful, mention that as well. Because like I said, not everyone likes the same things. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Perfect. Right. We said we'd have a short one today, James. I think it's a record.
Really well.
Record episode. So I'll stop saying that in future. But I think in general, that's probably us done. So that's the show. Please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. Consider giving us a 5-star review. That really helps push us up those searches. We'd appreciate those follows, those interactions on X, Threads, Facebook page, or by emailing us at akesandgamespod@gmail.com. I'm Giles Nicholson. Giles went west on most things. How about you, James?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you really want to see those inside reels, then come over to the Facebook page ASAP, because they're going to go up urgently. So yeah, like I said, James Boy 1978 on PlayStation. Come and play some games. It's all about sharing and having fun together. Wonderful. And also, you have to laugh on all the socials. But please do come to the Facebook page. Apart from that, I'll go back to chasing my pigeons and talk about the end of the world, and hopefully I'll see you on the street somewhere. And one day we might all come back as pigeons, who knows? So be nice to the pigeons. Shout nice things at them. Have a lovely time.
Excellent. See you next month, guys. First Friday of the month for more Aches and Games. Bye-bye.
Adios.